Hello friends, I'm pleased to welcome you to the second video where we will discuss response to specific queries we have received on eCAAT. Just to recap, the primary benefit of using eCAAT or data analytics software is you can do more in less time. This gives you the 9-step systematic approach for using eCAAT. I'm not going to the details. You can refer the previous video for this. I would like to highlight one important aspect which I'll be covering here. It's important to review the data to understand what each column in the file represents and how it might be relevant in performing the audit. Let's pick up a specific example here. Now I've got these queries where we wanted to look at how we can join files and there is error in joining the files. Let me take up the Excel file. Now this Excel file. Now we got the GRN and we got the purchase order. Let's pick up one more file. This is also a similar file. Now here we got the PO base file. We also got the GRN file. Now you remember I told you one of the first things you need to do is to harmonize the sheets so that you get the data in the required format. Now if you see this file has been already harmonized, you find the headers are properly structured. Now it's important to understand each of the fields. For example, what does material document mean? So the best thing would be to apply the auto filter and get an idea about the file. For example, here you do a quick walkthrough, you find that this particular data is numeric data and all the fields are numeric and there are no blank files. So important to assign the numeric format for this. Now you find it already has a numeric format. Next, let's go to the next field, purchasing document. This also is a numeric data. Okay, and you also find that this has been assigned a numeric format. You got the vendor code. This also is numeric. Let's look at the filter to identify if there are any exceptions. I do a quick scan and you find there are no errors. Similarly, you look at the material, you find it's alphanumeric and there's one which is numeric, a character, and there are also blanks here. Now you can just do a quick review to get an idea about how many blanks are there. Then you'll know whether blanks are the norm or the exception. So you find that totally 1064 out of 771 files, 7,771 files, which means nearly 15% of the data is blank. Now this should be a cause of concern as to why the material code, which is an important thing, is blank. What are the type of entries entered here? You also have the material description. Now let's see when the material code is blank, whether the data description is also blank. Now you find although the material code is blank, there is a material description. Let's see if there are any material, both the cases material code and this is blank. You find there are no data which is blank, which means in all the cases of the material code is not there, material description is available. Now if you want to do analysis of the data, you can actually do the analysis on the basis of the material description because this would be much more reliable and complete compared to the material code. You also have the documentation date. Now it's important if the date is formatted as the date. So you find it's actually formatted as the date. Now let's filter and see what's happening here. Now if you see here, this is correctly formatted. So you have the data which is correctly formatted. So we can definitely use MIS related functions here and dot rate related functions. Now you got reference, this is alphanumeric field, this can be general. Now you got UOM, now this is a blank field, which means this is not really relevant. So it means this field can be deleted. Like I said, I've already got a copy of the files. So I'm working on the copy of the files. Now here also you find quantity is 0. Let us just remove the filter and be sure. So quantity, we have a lot of places quantity is available. Okay, now let's undo because I just want to be sure whether the quantity I deleted was 0 in all the fields. So the quantity was 0. Okay, let's total and check. So the quantity is 0. So it means there are no value in keeping this particular field. We are not sure where the quantity is. Let's remove the filter just to be sure. Now we have quantity. Okay, so if you look at this, which means we have 7,772 counts and with an average of 99. Now let's apply the filter. Okay, now you'll find the values here ranges from minus. So it means you got negative quantities and you also got positive quantities, and you may also be having zeros here. So it's important. See, you have got zeros here. That's why I think last time you made a mistake. So you find there are zero quantities also. But it could be possible the material code is not available, maybe the quantity is zero. You have to see what are the type of exceptions. Similarly, you got amount. Here you can look quickly, scan through, and you find there are also negative amounts here. So you need to find out what does negative mean. So this is a GRN file. So based on the business rules, you'll get to know as far as this data is concerned, how has the data come. You also look at quantity, unit of entry. You also have the posting date. So you do a quick scan of each of the entry fields to get an idea about what do these fields represented. Then it will be easy for you to do the audit. Okay. Now you also have some computer fields in Excel. So I'd suggest that you remove these fields when you're doing it for using it for data analytics. Okay. Now let's come back. We have one more file, which is the PO base file. Here also you find the data is formatted. I'll just quickly run through some of the files. You should also use it to identify which are the common fields between the two, within the purchase order. This also you find most of it is numeric, but there's one exception which is called a Z. We can look at it and see what is the Z. So it means even before doing the audit or using eCAAT, you can actually use the filter of Excel and identify what are the exceptions. So it means there's one item which is an exceptional entry. So you can flag this and note it in your report. You also look at the purchasing document, which is a common field which you found in the GRN also. We also have item and we have PO with line items. So we have different fields for each of these areas. So it's important to understand what are the fields. You also have a computer field here. You can remove the computer field because if you want any analysis, you can do that using eCAAT, or you can keep it in another copy of the data. Now let's see, I just want to show you one example here. What the query was. The query was pertaining to joining of these two files. While joining PO file with GRN, I selected the file following match fields from both the fields. So we wanted to join on purchasing document. When you want to join, it's important that it should be a unique field, which is in this case is correct purchasing document. And you select records. You also see the function here, how to display it. I'll also show you the function here. And they got an error. Now this error, if you see here, this file was not harmonized. So when it's not harmonized, there is an error. That's the reason that error came in. I'll show you the join results of the join file. Okay. So what is the suggestion? First is perform harmonize sheet. Use the extract column and extract only columns required for working and perform this function. Now it's important to remember that the join file is used to join a primary file with the data with the master file to add details. For example, you can add authorization limit from the purchase master to the purchase file. So it's important that the secondary file which you're connecting is a master file and it has unique records. If it is not, then we'll see what will happen. If there are transactions both the files, then you find the join will result in multiple instances of the data, because of which the data what you get on joining the files will take a long time to process and it not be meaningful. I have done one stretch analysis. I'll show you what happens here. Now when I join the sheets, based on this is the result I got. How did I join? I'll show you what join I did. Although I'll not perform the function, I'll show you how I did join file so that you get an idea how join works. You go to eCAAT, join is in relate, I relate, join files. So I select the primary file. In this case, I'm already in the primary file, which is okay. So we also put in a validation now. I say yes. So in this case, I've selected the primary file. Then I go to the secondary file, which is the PO. It shows me the complete files. Now you find PO, in the GRN, there is a purchasing document. In this, there is a GRN. I say equal. So now you find that we have built a validation. It finds that it has got duplicates. So please remove the duplicate to perform this function. So it means you cannot perform this function. If these are unique, then you find these are the options available. Okay. Now we perform this function. Now it is not possible to perform this function because we built in the validation. Now earlier when you perform this function, you find original file we had about 7,700 records. Now you see when I join this file, actually I get around 71,000 records because it does multiple instances of joining, and that's why this join is actually not relevant. So let me close this file. Now let's go to the second aspect which I wanted to show you. I said one of the important things is to understand the data. You remember we're talking about understanding the data. Okay, review the data to understand what each column. We have seen this. Review and curate the data and format the header row. We have seen how it can be done using the harmonic. Confirm that the data is complete by comparing statistics from data analysis software and the original source of the data. So I don't have the original source, but let me just show you how the statistics function can be used for this. I've got this data. So if you see, I've got two files here, PO base file, PO gap file. I'll just pick up this PO base file. I would like to get the statistics. So there is a function. So this is what is called as a panel called profiling. This is one of the most important things you'll do. You'll curate the data, which means you purified the data and get the data ready for audit using the curate function, and then you profile the data. In profiling, you got different functions. One of the things you can do is you can stratify the data based on specific category. Let's say I would like to look at numeric and do the stratification. I can also summarize the data. And I can do the classify the data. Let me do classify. For classification, let's say we take the material code or the material. So you find the classify field, you will have this text here. I would like to pick up the material, and then I would like to have the total of the net order value. Okay. So what will happen is it will take up the total for each unique material item. It will group and give you the net order value. I'll say OK. So the classify function will run for all 7,700 record for each of the material item. So for each material item, you should be able to identify the count, the percentage, and the result. See, as we're talking, we got the result. Now you find there are 631 items which are blank. Okay, you have diesel, which is 12 times. Then you have each of the material items which is here. Now let's say I would like to drill down and see this. I can double click on this, I get the data. Okay, so I can see which are the items which have been bought, which are blank, where the material code itself was blank. Okay, it also gives me the percentage, which constitutes about 9.94%, which is significant amount percentage, and it also gives me the overall percentage. I can also, let's say I would like to sort this, I can sort this in ascending or descending order. Okay, this is what is classify. What I suggest generally when you are doing data analytics is to do classify on all the key fields so that you get an understanding of what are the material items, and then you can decide what further detailed analysis you'll be able to analyze. And you'll also be able to identify exceptions or anomalies in data when you use the classify function, like we saw the blank here. Now let us go to the next aspect, which is column statistics. When I click on column statistics, it gives me overall the type of fields. Now if you look at here, we've got so many numeric fields. It also gives me the date related fields. There are two date related fields, and you also have character fields. Okay. Now let me get the data pertaining to the date. Okay, I'll select all the date related statistics and see what is the result I'll get. So it's important that you profile the data by using the column statistics, so that you get an idea about what is the type of the data and what are the statistics pertaining to each of the components of the data. I'm just doing one example. You can do for multiple functions, for multiple fields. Now if you see, I've got the result here. Now this gives me the total number of records, 6,345. So although we had 7,100, the date related fields we got only 6,345. I'm not sure, let's check the data. So it also tells me what is the earliest date and what is the latest date. Now here you find the earliest date of 30 January 2017 and the latest date is 2019. It also gives me the data pertaining to each of the months. It also gives me the data pertaining to each of the days. So here I can identify there are 387 transactions which have been entered, which have delivery date of, and similarly I have got 11 documents which have been entered on a Sunday. If you'd like to drill down, I can double click and I can drill down and get these 11 items which are entered on a Sunday. So this is how I said just by using the column statistics, I can get a complete overview of the data at a macro level. Okay, now if you see here, this is the data which is not harmonized. I'll come back to this a little later. Now let's go further back to our presentation. So you confirm that the data is complete, understand the business process and the rules, document the audit test you're going to perform based on the tests, and then you understand the business process, the regulatory requirements, organization structure, and the technology deployed. Now these are 7 key controls we talked about. So as I said, CAATs can be used for testing controls at the compliance level and at the substantive level also. So these are the 7 steps which I talked about. Get the data ready for data analytics, make a copy of the files and perform analysis, perform harmonized sheet which you already seen, document the field description and the related rules, delete the fields which are not required, and review the field formats and change it to the required format as required, and then you can perform the eCAAT functions. As I said, the bottom line is you should be able to infer insight from information. Now let's come back to our file and see the next query. The next query was pertaining to three-way matching. There is a function called three-way matching. In this case, they are not able to perform three-way matching. Now if you look at this, three-way matching requires that you have 3 files which are similar in nature. Just like we had joined files where you had the primary file and the secondary file, in the case of three-way matching, we're actually joining 3 files. Okay, in this case, you find the error is the third file has not been selected, and that's why eCAAT gives a message that the field is missing. Okay, this completes the second query. I'll come to three-way matching a little later and show you how it works. Now this is about compare fields, where we're comparing fields both of PO and GRN based on specific parameters. Here there is one issue. Okay, convert patching. This is one of the issue was it's not able to perform because I think the data was not properly formatted. Once you perform the formatted data, you can get the result, and you can also double click and get the drill down. Okay, let me show you this function, how it works. So I go to compare files. I got 2 files here. Now I got only 1 file here. Let me pick up the other file. So I got PO base and I have got the GRN base. Okay. Now I'd like to compare. Let's see how the eCAAT compare function works. I go to eCAAT relate, compare files. Now by default, the first file which you are is the active file. I pick up the GRN file. Okay. Now it's important to select what is the basis on which you're going to compare. I'm going to compare based on the purchasing document. Okay, I can select, I've selected this, and then I'd like to total. What is the total I would like to have? For example, here I'd like to look at the common field which is available here. In this case, let's say I'm going to look at the quantity, purchasing document, quantity received, and here also I'd like to look at quantity. I've got quantity here. Okay, and then I say okay. Now this should be able to compare for each purchasing document. It will compute the quantity received and show you comparatively the data or the total in terms of the count and the value for each of these fields. And you also have the option to drill down and get the results. Let's see whether we got the results. Yes, we got the result. Yes, we got the result here. If you see, there are totally 1382 purchasing documents. This particular document has got 7 items in the primary file, 11 items in the secondary file. It also shows the difference in terms of the number and also in terms of the value, that is the quantity received. Now, if you would like to look at the details, I can just double click, I can get the details. Okay, so I hope you got a quick overview of what this function is all about. Okay, audit का साथ भी, audit के साथ भी और audit के बाद भी. Now let's go to the next function, next query. Same, different. So what is the issue here? Okay, now let's understand what is required in same, different. Now in same, different, you have to select 2 fields which you expect to be the same, and the third field is expected to be different. For example, you got the PAN number and the name which are same, but the address is different. This is how you find out the exception. Okay, or you have got the material code and the material description, whereas the quantity or the rate is different. Okay, so this is what you should be doing. So let me pick up a sample data and perform this function so that you get an idea. So I'll pick up the sample data. I've got this. I would like to go to a file called procurement. We've got this procurement here. In this file, I would like to use the function same, different. What I would like to do is I would like to look at the material code, okay, and the vendor name, which means I bought a material code from the vendor. I would like to see whether the rate is same or it's different. I expect generally when I bought the item, it should be same for the same material code from the same vendor. Okay, so I go to eCAAT and then I go to identify and then I go to same, different. So I just have to select the vendor code and the vendor material code. These are the 2 items which have to be same. It's not necessarily should be 2, it can be more than 2 also, but there should be logic applied while selecting these items. What is the item which has to be different? The item which has to be different is the unit price. And I say OK. Now here I'll be able to find out based on the result what are the material items which are bought from each of the specific vendors and are the rates same or different. So it will pick up all the places, all the items where the rates are different. So you find here out of the totally 2000 plus items I bought. Now I've got this particular item from the vendor code. Now I find here the unit price is 1106. Again, if you look at this particular same item, 335 vendor code, material item is this, and it gives me the different rate. So based on this, I find here, if you see here 980, 980, these are the 4 items and I bought it at different rates. Okay, so this is how you can use the same, different function. Now let's go to the next query, which is stratified key field. Okay, now what is the query? It seems only one vendor can be selected. Now stratify key field, if you look at the function, the key field which is shown is ascending or descending. A represents ascending and D represents descending. Let me perform this function so that you get an idea how this function works. I'll go back again to our sample data. This is sample data. And we wanted to perform stratification. So you look at data and I got stratification and I got key field stratification. It's important before you perform the function, you know what is that you're going to stratify on. I'm going to stratify based on the amount. I'm on the total amount, and it also tells me what is the maximum value and what is the increment value. It also tells the minimum value is so and so. Okay, I so fill the data. This is the key field stratification. Now you have this field available index. This tells me what are the fields on which I can index. I would like to index based on the material code. And I would like to do it in ascending. Okay. Now I say fill is done. I say OK. Now you see it has actually stratified the data based on the category and tells me the overall analysis for each type of strata. Now the key field is that I can actually go like slice and dice. I can go and pick up for a particular vendor. I would like to look at stratification for a particular vendor. I can click on this function and it gives me the result for that particular vendor. So I can go and selectively pick up any specific vendor and get the results for that particular vendor. This is what is key field stratification. Let's go to the next query. Data stratified key field, we already seen this. So A is ascending and D is descending. This is similar to, as I said, in pivot table you also have got in Excel slice and dice. This is where you can slice and dice and get the data for a specific vendor based on the stratified data. Now identify duplicates. So in this case the error was that this software said task cannot be performed. In this case the problem was the data was not harmonized, the data format was not correct, and that's why it was not able to perform. Okay, you can change the format of the data and you can identify the duplicates. I'll show you one example, then we'll see how it works. Let's pick up the sample data. I'd like to see whether in the purchasing document there are duplicates. Now if you see here itself I know there are so many duplicates. So it really doesn't make sense to identify the duplicate because these are actually duplicates. Okay. Now the question is, if I have to identify duplicates in this or gaps in this, so what I need to do first is I need to first classify the data. Now this is, let's look at the type of data here. So we know this numeric data. So if it's a numeric data, what I can do is I can summarize the data based on the purchasing document. So we have the purchasing document I summarized and I want to accumulate the total based on, let's say, quantity received, and I say OK. Now I'm going to get for each type of purchasing document, for each unique value purchasing document, it will give me the count and it will also give me the sum of the quantity received, the total quantity received, and also the percentage. Okay, so now I want this data in Excel. I click the Excel tab and this data comes to me in Excel. Then this data is actually organized. Now I can perform identify duplicates for this. There are totally 1167 records. I can perform identify duplicates on this, which means sometimes when you have to perform the function, you may have to do multiple steps. Okay, so how do I identify duplicates? It's very simple. I go to identify duplicates based on purchasing document. Now this should be able to tell me whether there are duplicates, and says there are no records found, which means there are no duplicates in the purchasing document. Can I identify, are there any gaps here? I can also say identify gaps, numeric. Okay, based on the purchasing document. Okay, and the sequence is 1. I say okay. So it should be able to tell me whether there are any gaps. If there are gaps, it will tell me what are the gaps, Now here if you see, although there are no duplicates, but there are many gaps. There are 52 places where the purchase order is missing. So now based on this, we can do further analysis, check why these purchasing documents are missing in the records. Now here if you see, there are 2 records which are missing. Okay. Now there is another related question which I'll answer here. Now why can't we give this systematically, sequentially? For example, that could be possible that the purchase document missing are about 20. In that case, unnecessarily I have to repeat this 20 times. And that's why in the case of gap, we always give it as from and to, so that this information is summarized. Okay, let's come to the next query. So we have seen identify duplicates. Now we have got the sampling random. In this case, what we would like to do is, we would like to sample based on a specific criteria and based on the classification. Here if you see, what is the query? Let's look at the query. It extracts only remaining items and not those 362 cases. Now this problem has been resolved because earlier drill down was not available and now it is available. This bug has been rectified. Okay, let's go to the next function. Query list to find. In this also, I'll show you the function and then explain to you what has happened. So by default, in this particular case, what happened was there was a detailed function option available and there is summarizer option. Now we built a validation so that the details will be shown. Let me show you this function, list to find. I got the PO base file. What is that I would like to do here? Now I have these dates, okay, which are April to 17 to 2018. What I would like to do is I would like to use the function query list to find. What does list to find to do? I have different types of queries. I'm going to look at the date. I would like to pick up a particular date. Let's say I would like to pick up a date which is, let's say 6th November, which is a, now this I think we don't have data pertaining to 2017. Let's pick up 2017. Okay. Let's look at the calendar. I would like to pick up the transaction which happened on 5th November 2017. I would like to add this. Like that I can add multiple dates. Okay, let's say I'll pick up one more date. Let's say 26th November and I'll say add. And I would like to pick up all these transactions. I can do the details or the summary. So here I picked up the details. When you pick up the details, you find the select will be disabled. Okay, so it means I would like to go through all the records. eCAAT to go through the records and pick up all transactions which happened on these dates. Okay. Now, is it possible to pick up all transactions happened on Sunday? I showed you it's also possible in the column statistics. It's also possible using MIS. Let's click OK. Now you should be able to get all transactions which happened on 5th November and 26th November. If I click the summary option, then it would have given me a summary of the transactions on each of the days, and it would have, and when I select summary, I should also have selected on what value I want to summarize. Okay, this is a data related field, so it will have to go through each of the dates, and based on that I should be able to get the result. Let's see whether the result has already come. No, result has not come. It is being processed. So it's taking time. So this is how you can perform the list to find function. So when there are specific items, when it has to scan through data related fields, sometimes it may take time. So we got the result. So there are totally 12 transactions which happened on these dates. So if you see here, these are the transactions which happened on this. We looked at the purchasing document, okay, and we looked at the date, delivery date. So you find these are the transactions of 5th November. Okay, there are no transactions 12th November. That's why I think we don't have the details pertaining to 12th November. So it has to sequentially go through each of the dates and pick up the details. Okay, so let's come back to my presentation. So what I'd like to do is, considering that the video has already become long, I'll cover the other queries in the next video. I hope you got a general idea of how to use eCAAT and also what are the errors to be avoided while using eCAAT. So thank you very much. Watch out for the next video where I will cover some more specific queries. Thank you. Bye.